What would you do if your ability to hear disappeared in the middle of a business presentation?
When he talked to me, he said, "Suddenly, Mom, I was totally deaf, could not hear anything out of either ear."
Stefan Doering lost that and more after a vicious attack. But don't call him a victim.
I really don't like being a victim.
Using the same principles that made him a successful entrepreneur, he's reclaiming his life and inspiring others to reach for their dreams.
My name is Stefan Doering, and I live in Brooklyn, New York.
He enjoyed Brooklyn very much, and in his neighborhood. He liked the people, the closeness, the neighborhood, the children, teachers, the community organizations. He got very involved with every one of those aspects of his life.
I was starting a new company, and man, I was on fire with that company. The company was called VentureMate. The vision of VentureMate was to create an online stock market and for companies before they go public. That company did really well from the perspective that we got a bunch of multimillionaires, billionaires as investors on my board of directors, and things were flying.
He was crossing the street with a light. A car came and stopped rather short, close to him. It was against the light, so the car had to stop. But perhaps he stopped a little too close to my son, didn't hit him. And I'm sure my son was capable of saying a couple of expletives, and maybe he had said a couple of curse words. Here he is, 6'4", and lived in the city, and he probably expressed his annoyance like, "Be careful, what are you doing?" The witness on police record had said that this individual got out of the car and came up to him and hit him. Now, my son is 6'4", but this individual hit him so hard that he actually lifted Stefan up in the air, the impact. When he hit the pavement, he hit the curb, and that's what caused the concussion, and he was unconscious.
The last thing I remember was looking at the apartment and realizing, you know, this isn't really for me, and going down the stairs to the street. That's the last thing I remember.
I was devastated. I thought, oh my God, it can't be. Stefan it can't be. You know, I kept thinking, here he is, a young man with dreams, and he had started a very successful business with a lot of promising growth in it, and he was so good and so always giving to people.
The days after that were pretty rough. I remember not being able to turn in bed. I remember taking 45 minutes just to sit up in bed. I remember waking up in the middle of the night with shooting pains going through my body. It just felt terrible. I remember looking in the mirror at my face, which was still very swollen. I remember not being able to speak as quickly as my mind was working.
The neurologist had said, if Stefan falls once more, he'll not survive. So I always had this tight feeling in my chest and my throat that, oh, I've got to watch carefully, because he's going to survive, but he's not going to fall.
I really couldn't walk. Walking, downstairs, when you see stairs going down and they're double, it gets very confusing.
It's always more difficult to go downstairs.
Yeah. With both hands on the wall instead of the banister?
No.
Like this?
Because that's what you wanted. Okay. I did not want him to fall. I'll deal with the hearing, I'll deal with the other in time, but I don't want him to fall. But he was absolutely adamant.
The hearing has been profoundly difficult, had been profoundly difficult and still is. When I can't hear, that was my business, I speak, I present, I coach, and when I can't hear, it virtually wipes that out.
You taped this at your last lecture.
I'm sorry, what?
You didn't hear me?
No. What?
Okay. You taped something at your... Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
You taped something about the small business presentation with Bluebird? I'd like to hear about that. It was difficult to communicate because he wouldn't hear so well. And it was new for me to learn how to speak more clearly, more directly, perhaps a little more loudly. And at that time, it wasn't just one ear, it was both ears, and it oscillated. Yeah, I sometimes forget, and it must be frustrating for you because I know it's important for me to face you and also aim for your right ear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
thanks.
Be patient.
I've also got this powerful headset for my telephone. It's an amplifier for my headset for my telephone since I'm on the phone so much. And I've got a neck loop so that when I'm teaching up at Columbia, my students can hear me. It's one of these little microphones that it's wireless, so they'll have this little microphone that then transmits into my hearing aids directly. I realized I really don't like being a victim, acting like a victim, being a victim. It just doesn't serve me at all. For a while, I was like, I'm gonna find this guy. And we found him. We actually did find him. And I know his name, I know where he lives. The only reason why I was interested in a criminal case was that so he wouldn't do this again to somebody else. Once the criminal case disappeared, there was still a very solid civil case, for what he had done to me. But that's when the spiritual side of me kicked in.